Why did I get an SV650 instead of any other bike from any other competitor? I'm gonna tell you which steps did I follow, like what was my framework that led me to end up buying that motorcycle, so that you can choose the best bike for you. The first thing is, what are you gonna use it for? In my case, it's mostly gonna be used to go to work. In the future, I don't completely discard getting this bike to the track, so that's also something that I'm gonna keep in the back of my head. But mostly I'm gonna use it for commuting. The next thing is, how big of an engine do you want? If you want a liter bike, well, you're gonna be looking at liter bikes. I wanted a middleweight bike, but I didn't want any kind of middleweight from any brand. And this is where also your personal biases enter in place. Like, for example, some people would really want an Italian bike. I would try to stay as far away from them as possible. Nope. For two reasons. They don't offer the most performance per dollar. They do not. They are really pretty, but you pay a lot to get just a little bit more. And at the same time, you have to be really on the spot with the maintenance, which is something that for me is not going to be a problem, but that can maybe be a problem from someone else. I'm going to stay very far away for KTM too, because you are probably aware of the cheese camshaft situation going on, and also the fact that if I am buying a KTM, I don't want to be paying KTM prices for a Bajaj that is manufactured in India. Because if I wanted an Indian bike, then I would be getting a Royal Enfield, which, by the way, they have really good tolerances and they are not bad bikes at all. What I definitely will not buy is a Chinese motorcycle. Mostly because the resale value. Like, who on earth is gonna buy your Thongshank? Who is gonna buy your Leoncino? Who is gonna buy your Dantes? The bike might be amazing, but if you ever wanna change your bike, no one is gonna pay as much as they would pay if it was Japanese. I was, let's say, stuck, like happily stuck, with Japanese. Like, probably 90% of the population is by choice. Because of that, my choices would be an MT-07, an SV650, a CBR650, or a Z650 from Kawasaki. When it comes to middleweight bikes, they are all so similar. Basically, what I did is I opened 4 Chrome screens with the specifications of each of them, so I could see the weight, the power, and when does the max torque come at on each end. I think it's more interesting how many RPMs less does your engine need to get the max torque. I think that is more important than how many horsepower it gets at 12,000 RPM. Because, like, how often are you gonna be at 10,000 RPMs? Like, not that often. But it is not that crazy to be around 7,000 or 8,000 RPMs. So in this case, in this specific case, it's not that important either because it's middleweight bikes. But if you are looking for another range of bikes, that's something that maybe it's interesting to look in. Weight-wise, they are also pretty much as heavy. But here there is the first mini point for the SV, which is that is an L-twin, like the Ducati Monster, which means that the center of gravity of the bike is slightly lower than any of the others, because the others have inline engine. That makes the bike super easy to maneuver around. It's super nimble. I swear, it does not feel like a 200 and a little bit more kilograms motorbike. Another key point that you have to take into account is reliability and maintenance. Depending on the brand or the brands you may be looking into, you have to be very aware of the fact that some bikes can take a little bit more abuse than others. If you have an Italian bike, you have to do your maintenance on the clock. You cannot skip it because you may have a problem. You may blow your engine. Okay. If you're dealing with a Japanese bike, you're gonna have a little bit more leeway. I am not gonna have that problem, I tell you that, but it gives me that peace of mind. Honda is very known for its legendary reliability, but I think that fame mostly comes from the little motorbikes that they sell in Asia that you can literally throw from a first floor and it's still gonna continue working no matter what after 7 generations. I've seen that with my own eyes. But at the same time, let's be honest, when you go on the second-hand market and you look for vintage bikes, are most of those for sale Hondas because in the past people only bought Hondas, or because only the Hondas survive? That's something that has been in the back of my head for a while, though. I mean, same with the BMW, but at the same time, those BMWs, maybe they are still around because people make them into cafe racers and things like that. If you're gonna be doing your maintenance, parts availability is something that is gonna be really important to you. It's gonna be so much easier to find a random bolt for a Kawasaki than it's gonna be to find for a Sontes or for a Benelli. That was another reason why I went for Japanese bikes. Also, the fact that they are so much more popular, it means that there is aftermarket things for them. Not because I want to skip OEM, there is more information on the internet, there is more knowledge about the bikes themselves. Together with great aftermarket support, great popularity from the bikes themselves, it means that you can source your parts quicker, you can potentially understand what the problem could be quicker too, and because of the aftermarket community, there is a chance that you also get a cheaper part. Next point is gonna be comfort and ergonomics. I got a naked bike, so you can probably imagine that for me, it's fairly important to be someone comfortable on my motorbike. Given the use I have given to it, I would have probably been fine with a bike with clip-ons, but there has been a couple of Saturdays already where I put 400 kilometers on the motorcycle. So I don't know how my wrists would be after 400 kilometers. The seat on my SV is fine. Like, I have no complaints. Like, again, after 400 kilometers, my ass was fine. I stopped twice, one way and once in the other way, but just to have a coffee. If for whatever reason the bike you bought, you feel that it has a very uncomfortable seat that feels like a plank, upgrading them, it's super easy. I might do it on my own motorcycle just for the sake of it, just to show you guys. But it's something like reupholstering a motorcycle seat is really simple, and there are also tons of aftermarket options. And then, of course, the aesthetics. I really have to admit, I was very close to get a Yamaha XSR 700. This one that is basically like a cafe racer MT-07. But yeah, it's important that you like the bike you buy, right? I mean, that comes without saying. I mean, who's gonna buy a bike that they don't like? If you really like X bike so much, just go for it. I mean, it's your money, do it whatever you want, right? That's why you work for it. But at the same time, if the bike you like so much is so much more expensive than the other ones that offer you pretty much the same, maybe it would be nice to give it a second thought, rest with it like a couple of weeks and think for yourself, look, is it really worth for me to spend double the money on the same amount of ponies, plus minus 10? This is just me being a performance per dollar oriented kind of person talking to you through the internet. Now let's go to the sauce, like why I chose myself specifically this exact SV650 and not the Yamaha XRS or another MT-07 that was in a very good price, or any of the other options. Very easy. And you probably know the answer already. Money. So I went on the second-hand market, and you could say, well, why second-hand? Yeah, because they are cheaper, but it's not that simple. When you get a new vehicle, they lose between 15 and 25% of their value. What? As soon as you take them out of the dealership. That doesn't sound very fun to me. Like, I literally hate that idea. If I buy a new motorbike, it would have to be an H2 or something crazy, like something that I know I'm gonna keep forever. But I think my SV is gonna end up on the track. So it's probably gonna end up being smacked. If I would have gotten an MT-07, it is going to follow exactly the same route. So there was I, looking for second-hand motorbikes, and I narrowed the search basically down to two options. There was an MT-07, because I took my ego away and was like, it was not worth to pay. The XSR was 7,500 euros. The MT-07 was 6,800, which is basically like 7,000, and the SV was 5k. It was just 5,000 euros, and the best of the best is that it only had 12,000 kilometers. It was previously owned by a lovely woman that sold it to a dealership, and I got it from the dealership at 5,000 euros. The bike didn't come with many extras. Actually, it only came with heat grips, which I was gonna put on myself anyway, so amazing. For me, it was so easy to make the decision. I had the SV for 5k, the MT-07 from another guy, not a dealership, for 6,800, or the Cafe Racer MT-07 from a dealership for 7,500. So in my brain, I just could not justify pay 50% extra for a motorcycle that is slightly cooler looking. And even if I never take it to the track, I cannot justify paying 50% more for a motorcycle that I will eventually upgrade out from. Like I'm gonna eventually get a liter bike or a 900cc one or something else. I'm not gonna die with the SV. So for me, it was just absolutely point. So I would much rather get those 2,500 euros and spend it on gear or just invest in more. So as always, tell me in the comments what did I miss, what did I do wrong, or even more interesting, tell me why you hate my bike. See you in the next one.